Hello, our truth warriors. Today's guest is a retired Border Patrol agent that wanted to show the world what is happening at the borders in regards to the problem of illegal immigration. What he found sent him into areas he never expected and opened up a can of worms that proves this is clearly an orchestrated plan of purposeful invasion. He has written a book called Invaded and is now putting together a documentary that's going to shock people to the core. It's great to have a fellow warrior with us today and explain what exactly is going on. Welcome to the Atlantic Underground podcast, JJ Carrell.
No, thank you very much for having me. I am excited to talk to you about a terrible situation, and that is the intentional destruction of the United States of America. And they being the left, has used the vehicle of illegal immigration as a weapon to destroy America. I believe that through the depths of my soul.
Absolutely. Now, let's start off by telling everyone here about the roles that you had within Border Patrol.
Okay, I started my career in the late '90s as a journeyman agent, and maybe I should start back and say this is very important that I tell you who I am, because I want you to know who I'm not. I'm not the guy that's just going down to the border, taking pictures, thinking about what the hell's going on, and then coming up with my own beliefs and theories academically. No, I was down there. I did a decade on the Tijuana border as a journeyman agent and supervisor. I ran ATV units. I got to the point where every single day that we were assaulted and we assaulted back, we used the necessary violence to effect arrest. But every single day I went to work, me and my team on the ATVs, we'd be assaulted. We'd be punched, kicked, shot at, throwing bricks at us, everything you can imagine. It was the border is a desolate, evil, disgusting, hopeless place. People have no idea what it's like down there. I know what it says about me when I say this, and I know that it says some good things and some bad things, but I thrived in that environment. God built me for that and to lead men in that violent world. I loved it. I moved up the ranks. I created a team called CBET, Coastal Border Enforcement Team, and my team took down hundreds of pangas, open bow Mexican fishing vessels, where they would jam 40 people in them. Or once the Sinaloa drug cartel took over the routes, they pumped full of narcotics, and my team would arrest them on the beaches all night long from San Diego to Santa Barbara every night. The farthest north I went to catch a boat was just south of San Francisco. One of my guys testified against El Chapo Guzman to help secure a conviction. So we are ripping all his loads. It's a very proud moment in my career. And then I took promotions up the chain of command and became a deputy patrol agent in charge in an interior station in California. I worked all of Arizona. I never worked Texas, but I worked the whole eastern corridor of California and into Arizona. So I'm very familiar of the landscape and what the hell is going on. Where I was as a deputy patrol agent in charge, there's about 2,500 agents in San Diego sector, so I was in the top 25. So I have a very high level view of what's going on within DHS. And as important, I spent time down on the border. I was never a public information officer or any of that stupid stuff. I was a Border Patrol agent, and I ran task force. So I have intimate knowledge of what the hell's going on the border, and I can tell you exactly what's happening in DHS with the policy manipulation and the bastardization of law. I can tell you exactly what's happening, and I will be without apology or without hesitation to say what is happening to the United States of America through illegal immigration is intentional, purposeful, it's strategic, and it is treason. Yeah. Absolute treason.
Yeah, absolutely. How have the presidential executive orders created this problem with illegal immigration?
Yes, and that's a great question, great point, because I know prior to Joe Biden taking office that they had meetings at the highest level of the United States government to make a determination on how are they going to fundamentally transform America. And they made the decision that they were going to use illegal immigration. Was I in those meetings, or did I talk to anybody that was in those meetings? No. So how do I know it happened? Well, I know it happened because on day one of Joe Biden's presidency, he wasn't there drinking his coffee and looking around the Oval Office and saying, man, I can't believe I'm president. No, he was sitting in the Oval Office and he signed 94 executive orders obliterating every immigration policy that Donald Trump had in effect that turned over the most secure border in the history of the United States of America. In year one, He signed 296 executive orders, laying the foundation to what would become the destruction of America through illegal immigration. And you have to ask yourself, if somebody gives you something that is working perfectly, why would you dismantle it? Why would you purposely dismantle something that is absolutely working perfectly? In my whole 24 years in the United States Border Patrol, my last year was Joe Biden's first year. So I saw all this happening. I saw it real time. I went from having the greatest border president in the history of the United States of America, Donald Trump, shutting the border down within 6 to 9 months, having a completely closed border, to the day that Joe Biden takes office, we arrested between 5,000 and 6,000 people a day, all the way through as high as 20 plus thousand a day. Every day, guys, from the January 20th, 2021 to present day. That's almost 12 million people that they arrested and released. And then another 18 million of open borders. So 30 million total will have crossed under Joe Biden's regime.
That's insane. I mean, I wanted to move to South Carolina and looked into the process of legal immigration, which we've always done, into the US. And what we found was an absolute minefield of rules, regulations that, regardless of my skill set or financial status, did everything to stop us entering, leaving only, I think there was one option of an entrepreneurial visa should I invest in setting up a business. But not only does that require major investment, but also $12,000 worth of legal fees to accommodate it. And it's fair to say that, you know, the US do not want hardworking English people in their country anymore, regardless of, you know, us being the foundation of what it grew to become. So why are illegals, do you think, getting such a free ride, and how bad is it?
They're getting a free ride because they're going to use them to replace us. And that is the ultimate goal. This is the restructuring of powers throughout the globe. This has already happened and is happening today in Western Europe, where nations are being turned upside down. This is happening in the United States of America. Just so your audience understands, in the halls of Congress, they don't even argue. They don't even argue about how many illegal aliens there are anymore in America. They have already agreed to at least 45 million. 45 million. I'm telling you it's closer to 50 million. What I'm saying is 1 in 6 residents inside the United States of America are illegal aliens. They don't want you, sir. America, they don't want you. Why? Because you have a brain. You're articulate. You have the ability to read and write and understand. I want your audience to understand. I'm not talking about, just let's look at the number that DHS uses for 12 million in the last 4 years under Joe Biden. Not the 45 or 50. Just let's look at them, what they have allowed in. Majority of everyone that crosses is illiterate in their own language. Not illiterate in English, illiterate in their own language. I can go down and show you. Out of the 12 million, we don't have people like you that want to come, be able to purchase a house, sustain themselves, actually create a business, maybe run an entertainment apparatus like you are. No. We want to bring in literal peasants by the tens of millions that cannot read or write. They hate America. They hate our culture. And then they're going to be completely dependent on who? The government. And then the government can tell them whatever the hell they want. If you're illiterate in your own language, you can't read English, how are you going to understand that we're a republic? How are you going to understand your First and Second Amendment rights? How are you going to understand that you have the right to protest and have grievance on your issues? None. They're going to be so hungry, literally hungry for bread from the government, they'll never revolt. They'll never revolt. And when you add in, I call this a math problem. This is not a demographic shift of race or ethnicity. This is a demographic shift moving from citizens to non-citizens. You have 50 million illegal aliens in America. They reproduce at a 2 to 6 times the rate of Americans. Americans are not even reproducing at the replacement level.
Yeah.
So you do one generation, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's just to figure that, and as you're talking, I'm thinking I recently put out couple of podcasts talking about the eradication of the middle class. And I was targeting mainly the financial mechanisms that they're going to use in order to do that, the cost of living, crashing the financial system, because if they can make the middle class poor, then they're a lot easier to control. But what you're saying here adds fuel to the fire exponentially. It's like unbelievable that this is another tool in the toolbox for the eradication of people like you and me.
It is, and I want to go one step further because this is never talked about. And the reason why it's never talked about is because people have no idea of the terminology and the verbiage that they use in DHS, and then how they manipulate that, and then they create things out of whole cloth. And let me give you an example. As you have traveled and been an immigrant, a legal immigrant through multiple nations, when you're a U.S., the only people that can sponsor someone from outside of the country in as a legal immigrant are legal residents and U.S. citizens. Okay, that's a very important aspect. And then when I, as a citizen or a legal resident, wants to bring in one of my family members, I have to go in front of DHS and present them with a form called the I-134, Declaration of Financial Support. Think of it like going to get a mortgage. You have to show that you can sustain yourself. I'm showing that I can sustain my brother from Ecuador, and I've worked for 5 years, and I have enough savings. Here it is. And they bless me. Okay, you can bring your brother in.
Yeah.
Under the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, under DHS, which is a major political apparatus within DHS, they've changed temporary protective status, DED, DACA, anyone that's on asylum or parole. Those are all illegal aliens. I just use multiple terms within DHS, but ultimately they're illegal aliens. Well, USCIS now deem them legal residents. So now illegal aliens can sponsor as many family members as they want. And you say, the first thing you say is, no. Well, you just told me about the Declaration of Finances. There's no way. They live in hotels. They have no jobs. Well, here's what DHS did in the dark of night. They said, you don't need to do that anymore, illegal aliens. You know why? Because we're going to allow the NGOs to be your financial backstop. So U.S. citizens are giving money out of taxes to federal government. Federal government is taking billions with a B, giving it to religious NGOs, and those NGOs now become the financial sponsors of illegal aliens that they can bring in 5, 10, 15 of their family members. No one knows this is going on. This is going on. I'm not making this up, and I want your audience, everything I say is not for effect, to sell books, to sell my documentary. I want everyone to fact check everything I say, because I know that I'm saying things that are so outrageous, they make no sense. And you're going to go, oh my God, that guy is he's so full of crap. And guess what? When you look into what I'm telling you, you're going to be shocked. You're like, oh my God, that guy was telling the truth. Yeah. How could the American public allow this to happen? But we have, because and I will tell you this is my ultimate belief. If you push me all the way to the ultimate reason why this is happening to America, I will tell you that the American man, not the woman or child, the American man is at fault for everything that's happening to America. We are impotent. We are weak physically. We have no spiritual grounding, and we are morally bankrupt as a nation of men. And we are the reason. We are the reason that we are in this horrific spot in American history.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, I always say to people, we had a moral responsibility to look after each other and the country around us, regardless where I've been. And most people are just not prepared to stand up. They want to drink beer, watch hockey, watch football, be distracted, the whole bread and circus thing. They're not interested because it's a very selfish outlook that if it doesn't affect them immediately, they're not interested and they'd rather turn a blind eye. And unfortunately, society has ground people down. It has indoctrinated people over the years. They've controlled the education system. They've controlled what people see and consume. And basically, they have browbeaten many, many men down to what I see as a substandard class now, where None of them are prepared to stand up and fight, and that needs to change. We don't need an era of weak men at this moment in time, because we do need people to stand up and fight. Now, what you're talking here is it's a big problem currently for the US, but I saw it in the UK, I saw it in Europe, I'm seeing it in Canada. And some areas within Europe and the UK I'm well aware of are no-go areas, not only for people like me and you, but also for the emergency services. And the gangs now control these large areas. Is this the same thing in the USA?
Oh, you're seeing it right now. You're seeing it in the major cities. I'll give you one example. I went to Chicago. I went to Chicago because that's ground zero. And I went down to the South Side. And if your audience doesn't understand, I want you to think of a war zone. And that war zone is called South Side of Chicago. Every weekend, 50 to 100 people are shot. Shot. Black Americans are destroying and killing Black Americans. However, the Venezuelans have poured into Chicago, and their gangs are taking over all of the turf and moving the Black residents out. The Black residents are going to fight back, and you'll see a race war in Chicago real soon. But you can't go into downtowns. I traveled into those places. They are no-go zones. You're not going to walk there with your family. My brother is a travel agent. He takes group trips all over the world. He told me, I used to put people in the Row Hotel in downtown New York City. It's a 28-story, it's like 3,000 rooms or something like that. It's huge. It was a 3 or 4-star hotel. It's down there by the theater district and all that. He can't go there anymore. Why? Because the Row Hotel is now contracted for 5,000 illegal aliens to live there. And because the crime is so crazy, my brother can't walk his groups that are paying thousands of dollars to go on trips, tens of thousands of dollars, can't walk down the street because they're going to get accosted, pickpocketed, raped, killed. That's what's happened to the United States of America. You talk about men having a responsibility for the women and their children. In America, as I'm speaking to you, I will guarantee you there's a woman, there's a child that are being raped and murdered right now, right as we speak, by the hands of an illegal alien. And I could go on for a tirade for 24 hours of the number of men that are murdered, women that have been raped and slaughtered, and children that have been sex trafficked and killed, all on the watch of Americans. And I could do that ad nauseum forever, because that's how many people are being murdered and raped in America because of illegal aliens. And our government doesn't care because it's collateral damage. You stupid Americans are just pawns to the elites. That's it. We're worker bees for them.
Yeah.
Just keep working, shut up, and pay me your taxes.
Yeah. In the UK, we were having grooming gangs, rapes, and everything going on.
Yes.
Very similar to what you're saying there. And we're well aware that the media, the police, the court system are all keeping it quiet because they don't want to create what becomes a racial or religious war within the borders of that country. Hiding it doesn't solve the issue. It just exacerbates it. It makes it grow, and it's insane. But you mentioned there about Venezuela. Now, I remember in Venezuela, when the place went down through financial collapse and the problems that the country was having, again, something which I think the US government had a hand in massively. They emptied the asylums and the prisons of all the dangerous criminals. Please tell me that these people aren't in the US now.
Well, they're all in the US. Donald Trump said it, and they castigated him. They said, oh, you're so full of crap, and you're a liar, and you're a racist. Nope. Let me give you 2 examples of how we know that this is true. Maduro in Venezuela just boasted 2 months ago that they have the lowest murder rate in their nation's history in the last 22 years. Well, why is that? Because they're all here, people. I can rattle off 10 murders and rapes in the last 2-3 weeks just by Venezuelans, what I know. Their major prison gangs are here in America. They're here. And the second point I would make, Maduro, once Biden released the oil embargo and all the restrictions on Venezuela, you know what Maduro said? Hey, by the way, I'm not taking back any of my countrymen, so do not deport them. I will not allow you. And then Biden said, just like every other impotent president in the history of America, except Donald Trump, said, okay. Do you know People have no idea about this, okay? This is a big deal. We are the biggest, baddest man on the block. Even that we're run by an idiot that has dementia and the vice president is just slept her way to the top and she's grotesquely mentally retarded, okay? Even with all of that, we are still the biggest, baddest people on the planet. That said, third world cesspools across the globe refuse to take their criminals back. And you know what? Every president, I was under Bill Clinton all the way to Joe Biden. Do you know that every president bent a knee and said, okay, we won't do it? Everyone except one man. Donald Trump said, I'm not keeping your people. I live this, dude. I live this world. So I'm not talking about reading it in the paper. I lived it. Under Donald Trump, you know what he said to everyone in the globe? Everyone. Oh, you're not going to take back your people? Okay, all financial aid gone. You get nothing. And I watched, because I have friends in ICE and deportations, and they told me, JJ, you wouldn't believe this. We're going on plane rides around the world and literally just pushing people out onto the tarmac. Get out and take off and fly. Because everyone said, because you had a powerful, powerful man in the presidency, and they were afraid of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said, you're going to bend a knee or I'm going to bend it for you. You figure which way you want. And guess what the rest of the world did to the mighty United States? We'll do whatever you want. And he deported all of those savages. And I call them savages because you're talking about drug dealers, gang members, murder, rapists, child rapists. And you're telling me I'm supposed to release them onto my streets? Because that's what our former presidents were doing. Yeah. Republican and Democrat. They were releasing them. Do you know that in Houston, Texas, has the largest population of El Salvadorians outside of El Salvador? Why? Because George Bush, the senior, allowed MS-13 just to be released onto our street because El Salvador said we can't handle them. So we'll allow them to destroy our people. Do you see how, and I'm pissed. If I sound angry, I am angry.
Yeah.
Because I did this for 24 years. I see, I'm not a novice. I'm not some guy that doesn't understand. I'm telling you, from a guy that was down in the woods, a guy that wrote a book, is doing a documentary, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, America, you are the most vulnerable you have ever been. And everyone outside of America, and you think, oh, I'm going to cheer this on, America's going to get a little comeuppance. Guess what? When America falls, the world will reset and you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it at all because the globalists want to take down the giant. Does anybody care what happens to Sweden? Honestly, economically, no one gives a crap. Sweden's almost done. They have a population turnover. They have a rape epidemic. Their men are allowing their women to be slaughtered by African men and Middle Eastern men every day. But no one cares about Sweden. If America falls, the whole world is going to go dark and it is going to be reset and you're not going to like it. You're going to have the communist China, Russia, Iran. Your women are wearing burqas. You're going to be working in salt mines. And you're going to be told, shut up. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to shut up. Yeah. Because America is no longer available to help anybody. Anybody, because they can't help themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it is looking, though, like Donald Trump will probably win the election. And, you know, he has promised that he will send back the illegals. Are the numbers so great now that this is something that can be done? Or is this going to be such a major challenge that it's going to take a long, long time to sort this out?
It is going to be a major challenge. However, if I can send a spaceship to Mars and send back videos and pictures, I sure in the hell can take out peasants out of my country and throw them out. You got to have some big balls and you have to do what you have to do. And why do I know Donald Trump's going to do this? Many reasons, but I'm going to give you one. There's a man named Tom Homan. Tom Homan was the former director of ICE under President Trump. Who spoke at the RNC convention? Tom Homan. Trump is already going to place him back to ICE or make him head of DHS. And Tom Homan gets in front of millions of Americans, and all these speeches are vetted. And he said, if you're an illegal alien, you better pack your bags because we are going to find you and we are going to deport you. And the number 2 plank of the RNC, the creation of the world's largest deportation force. Now, how you have 50 million, 25 million will leave on their own. They'll just be afraid and they'll leave. 25 million have been sent here. Sent here meaning they're terrorists, gang members, soldiers from the PLA, and every degenerate you can imagine. They're not leaving. So men like me are going to have to come back to work, and we're going to have to go into those cities and towns, and we're going to extract them. When we do extract them, I'm going to tell you this is, and people may not like it. American law enforcement officers will die. Illegal aliens will die, and there will be a bloodbath in the streets of America because those soldiers, terrorists, and gang members are not going to leave. We're going to have to pull them out, and we're going to have physical violence, and there's going to be death and destruction. There is no way. America has gone so far down the rabbit hole. There is no way out except clawing tooth and nail and fighting to get back to normal. And you don't have a choice. Really, your only choice is you are going to have to go and eradicate them and get them out of your country, or you just stay the impotent, fat, lazy men that you are, and they will eventually outpopulate you and kill you.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like you're going to the doctor and he says, hey, man, I hate to tell you this. You have stage 4 cancer and it's spreading all over your body. I can stop it, but it's going to be extremely painful. It's going to be months and months of chemo, radiation. I'm going to go into your body physically and I'm going to dig the cancer out of your body. And it's going to be horrific, but I think you can live. Or we can do nothing. And over the next 6 months to a year, you're going to live a miserable effing life and you're going to die. What do you want to do? That's America. That's where we sit right now in America. And you can say, well, that's hyperbole. No, this is the truth. It's just simply the truth. You don't have to like me or like the way I do my hair or the way I speak. I'm telling you, everything that I'm telling you is true. You don't have to like it. And then I always ask people that when they interview me, the data I'm telling you, you just go on dhs.gov and you just look at it. Do I believe in the data? No, I believe it's false, but it's so damning. I don't even have to make up data. I can just go, okay, I'll go off of what they say.
Yeah.
And when people talk to me, I say, okay, if you don't like my conclusion that the federal government is the enemy of the people and we are looking at a destruction of America, then I want you to give me a plausible explanation of what the hell's going on. And no one can tell me. How does a government allow 30 million people into your country in 4 years and you think that government has your best interest? You have to be an idiot to believe that.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, most of what we're seeing is what we class as fighting age men. I mean, are we aware in other countries of recruitment drives to have this particular demographic of illegal aliens coming into the country?
Well, that's an incredible question because here's the deal. People don't know this either. Out of the 12 million, just on their data, 60 to 70% are single adult military age men. Okay. So if I take 50 million, I'm going to guarantee you there's at least 25 to 30 million, bottom line, baseline, 30 million single adult military age men. How do you think that's going to play out? I'm talking, let's look at just the data of the 12 million. Okay. You have 210,000 Chinese nationals, 250,000 Russians. You have 1 million Venezuelans. You have almost 1 million Haitians. You have people from across the continent of Africa that are Muslim and hate us. They're here in America. Now, you take people from Haiti that like to machete each other and use rape as a form of violence. How's the barista going to do? The guy that sells coffee at Starbucks that thinks that he can have a baby. How do you think he's going to handle when the guy from Haiti wants to take everything he has and then hack him to death? And you don't think that's happening? Let me give you just one quick example of what I'm talking about. In the middle of America, in Ohio, the state of Ohio, there's a small town called Springfield, Ohio. 58,000 people live there. Do you know what just happened? In a course of a couple years, they have 20,000 Haitian illegal aliens living in that community. The mayor and the city manager have said, we have lost all control. They are living 10 people to a room. Crime is skyrocketing. Our schools are failing. We've run out of money. It's a destitute. And guess what's going to happen? I know it's happening right now. Every resident in Springfield is leaving. It's called white flight. This is what they called it in the 80s. Now you can just call it American flight because every race and ethnicity is going to run for the hills. And what you're going to have is another hollowed out city in Ohio. and it's going to be a little Port-au-Prince. You have a little Haiti. No one's going to work. No one's going to do it. This is America. This is happening in Whitewater, Wisconsin. It's the same thing. I can go down the list of cities and little towns in America that are being devastated, but they won't report it because it goes against the narrative. It makes it sound racist.
Yeah. No, it's insane. But like the bringing in of all these people, I mean, to this level, this is something where non-government organizations are being funded to do it. Who owns these NGOs? And are they nothing but profit hubs for, again, major corporations?
They are the evil arm of the federal government. Okay. Let me explain. The best way I can explain it is the federal government created chaos and has pushed up 12 million people on the border, plus another 18 million that are running through the border, but just to 12 million. If you go back in time to 2021, 2022, we start seeing these big caravans of 10,000, 20,000 people living under bridges, living up on the border, like on our side. And it was optically bad. So what did the federal government needed? They needed a partner. They needed a partner to be able to move 12 million. Think of this. I have 12 million pens. You know how long it takes you to move 12 million pens? Now imagine I need you to move 12 million people. I need you to shelter, food, clothe, medicate. I need all that. So they went to the NGOs, and the major NGOs are all under the cloak of religion and God. Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Jewish Family Services, and on and on and on. The federal government has paid them billions and billions and billions of dollars to transport illegal aliens into America. Let me give you an example. I interviewed a guy for my documentary. He's a DHS check cutter. Literally write the check, hit the electronic fund transfer button. And I said, okay, who were you responsible for? What organization? He goes, I was responsible for Jewish Family Services. And then in my room, in my cubicles, I had everyone else was doing Catholic Charities, etc. And I said, okay, what's the largest check that you wrote? And hit that button. And he goes, I was under Jewish Family Services, and the largest check I wrote was $600 million. And I said, $600 million for what? Like a couple years? He goes, try 2 months, 3 months. And Catholic Charities is getting the same check. Lutheran Family Services getting the same check. And then he said, then all of the smaller groups under the protection of Jewish Family Services would now come and hit me up for money. And I had to give it to him because, as he said, the federal government does not run the NGOs. The NGOs are running the government. And when you understand that, it gets more devious because NGOs are not tied to any nationality, any allegiance. They are international organizations funded by George Soros, the abomination of the Catholic Church. I'm Catholic, so I'm not saying this with any prejudice.
Yeah.
Catholic Church is part of the problem. Now, I want to make clear too, and this is something that we have a little bit of time, but it's a very evil thing to talk about. It's very dirty, but it's the child sex trafficking.
Yeah.
The religious organizations, the NGOs, under the blanket of God, are using religion to sexually traffic children into America. There's over 500,000 children that have been arrested and released into America. I interviewed a vast majority, cross-section of people that work in these NGOs and people that are federal government employees working in these child detention centers. And they're telling me, let me just make sure your audience understands just the depth of this child sex trafficking. Okay.
Yeah.
In this interview, throughout the last 4 months, I've been traveling all across the country. I interviewed people that are child sex trafficker hunters. I labeled them hunters. They're going out looking for the children and the child sex traffickers and then arresting them. All of those people, I'm talking to men that have been inside, trafficked the children, meaning have transported them through government NGOs and gave them to sponsors. I've talked to government employees that were working in these facilities and overseeing them and saying, dear God. And I ask all of them. And I never interview them together. So I interview them separately from each other. And I ask them one question at the end. Every single one. At the end of my interview, I say, I have one statement, and I need you to tell me a yes or no answer. I said, okay, are you ready? They're like, yes. I say, my statement is the United States of American government is the largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. Before I can finish, every one of them, not like one or here, every one of them, before I could even get that word history out, they're yelling. They're not like, yes, they're yelling. They talk to me just like this. I swear to you, this is how it is. Yes, yes, yes. And they say it 3 times. Yes, the federal government is the largest child sex trafficking organization ever, JJ. And I'm like, huh, oh my God. And then you start to listen to the stories, dude. You start to listen to the evil. And let me just give your audience just one story that will show you what I'm saying is true. In my job in the Border Patrol, I would interview guys. I would have my teams interview guys. Criminals compartmentalize all of their crimes, right? So you can't get the whole picture. So when you're talking and interviewing someone and groups of people, you're looking for commonalities. They're all going to have a different perspective of the crime because they all had different jobs in the crime. So as I'm talking to these gentlemen, I'm listening for the commonalities. So I'm talking to a man named Carlos. Carlos has worked inside the NGOs that traffic children for 8 years. His title was escort. And I said to him, I want you to talk to me like I don't believe, Carlos. I don't believe you. Give me an example. And he gave me hundreds, but I said, give me just one that it's indisputable that they're child sex trafficking. He goes, okay. He worked in Texas. He said every couple of weeks or so, we would get this call. Hey, everybody's got to show up about 10 o'clock at night. And then we would take 200 to 300 children from Carrizo Springs, Brownsville, Texas, Pecos. And then we would drive 5 or 6 hours to El Paso in the middle of the night, back to the border. Like, back to the border. Why are you going back to the border? He goes, because there's a private airstrip in El Paso. And as we drive on this private airstrip, there's 3 Lear jets lined up. And we would push all the children into these Lear jets. And the rule was none of the pilots or flight attendants were allowed to speak to us, and we were forbidden to speak to them. So we would fly in the middle of the night in complete silence, land all over the United States of America. And then as we land on other private, secure landing strips, there would be buses and rental cars waiting for us. And we would take the kids, and then we would drive them in the middle of the night to their final destination. And I would take black children and give them to white people. I would give white kids to Hispanic people. I would give Asians to blacks and blacks to Hispanics. He said, I was delivering packages to people. They had no family contact. They didn't know each other. And so I said, so what do you think you were doing? Well, I was trafficking children, JJ, because everywhere I went was not low class, like immigrant housing, and I'm not bagging on immigrants. I'm saying when you're an immigrant starting at the bottom, you're not living in upper middle class neighborhoods. You're not. It's a very few group of people can do that. But that's where he was bringing them, to upper middle class homes and upper class homes. Why? At 5 o'clock in the morning, you're dropping kids off. They don't even know each other. He says, I was trafficking. Then I'm interviewing another guy that is a former CIA operative, big level guy, former special forces. He runs a child sex trafficking organization where he goes and hunts these kids down. And I asked him the same thing. Tell me a story. He goes, okay. He goes, a couple months ago, we got a tip that a large shipment of children were going to be flown into the middle of the night in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we packed up, we flew out there, we called local law enforcement, and they said, we'll take care of it. But we sat up there anyway and set up perimeters, and we watched it. We watched the planes fly in the dark of night. And then they took out 100 kids, shuffled them real quick into buses, and they disappeared in the middle of the night. I'm hearing this from 2 separate people, one that was in the plane and one that's not.
Yeah.
This is happening in America. Why would you fly kids? Why would you fly kids in private jets? Because you're sex trafficking children. American government is child sex trafficking.
But there
And when
must
you
be,
get down, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, there's got to be a way. I mean, a Learjet and flying them round, there's got to be flight manifests. Those things are hired. Somebody has to be paying for it. There has to be names on paperwork.
They
Surely
never get it.
traced.
No, you're never going to get it. You know why? Because there's a guy named Monkey Works that runs a podcast called Monkey Works, and he has the ability to track every plane that's coming into America. In 2023, he identified over 7,000 flights coming into America from foreign nations, and they were all under one airline called Swift Airline. And Swift Airline brought in 1.4 million illegal aliens in the dark of night. They're also bringing children flying. I just got a call today and left a message. Hey, I just want you to know that they're flying children in the dark of night, and they're not keeping them off the books, and they're disappearing. So when you ask me, well, surely they care. Well, the reason why they don't care, sir, is because the federal government, the highest level, are pedophiles.
Yeah.
How do I know this? I listened to General Flynn 6 months ago on a podcast. This was the man that had all of the data, all of the intel. He said there are congressmen and senators that go overseas under the blanket of the United States of America, and they have sex with minors. Sex with minors does not exist. That's called raping children. I interviewed one of his, I'll call it for a lack of a better term, a lieutenant, right? One of his guys. And I said to him, this is what I heard. That's true or not? And they looked at me and they said, that's 100% true. Congressmen and senators are raping children. And I said, you going to name names? He goes, no, I can't right now because we're working on it. But that's true. And it's a lot of them. So when you ask me, I'll give you a great example. 2 weeks ago, I get an email actually from the Senate Congressional Subcommittee on Homeland Security, blah, 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 right? The major Homeland Security. And they're like, JJ, we've been watching all of your videos and reading your articles on child sex trafficking. Would you talk to us? So I know I'm dropping bombs right on top of their head. Sure, I'll talk to you for an hour. But I knew that I was talking to the enemy. I wasn't talking to somebody that was going to help me. I was telling them what they wanted to hear, and they wanted to hear more because they wanted to know, how much evidence do I have that you are a child sex trafficker? You are a pedophile.
Yeah.
And you don't think, you say, well, that's crazy, JJ. Really? Is that so crazy when you think about America has aborted and murdered over 60 million babies? You have the Epstein Island where they're trafficking thousands of kids, raping by all the big wigs. You have a culture that is brutalizing young children's bodies, just ripping them to shred on the LGBTQ, transgender. So we have all that happening, and you can't take one step more and make the realization that our government is involved in child sex trafficking when you understand that the nation that is the number one consumer of child pornography is the United States of America. The United States of America is in the top 3 to 5 nations on planet Earth that pays for child sex. And you can't believe that your federal government is trafficking children? And people that I've spoken to have told me, JJ, since Joe Biden's taken office, I cannot even keep track of the cases I have. I talked to someone and I said to him, if I was president and I named you the czar of child sex trafficking, I want it eradicated, dude. I mean, I want it eradicated yesterday. How many men do you need? And you know what he told me? He paused and he went, I need 500,000. You need 500,000 officers? Yes. I got done talking to a guy that's from the FBI, and he was involved in child sex trafficking. He was one of the guys that chased it. And I said, this is what I was told. You need 500,000. You know what he said? Absolutely. You may need more than that, because it is so prevalent in our culture to rape and brutalize children that you are going to need hundreds of thousands of officers dedicated day in and day out just to hunt these people.
Yeah.
This is what America has come. And I'm going to make another statement. I believe in a God that is, you still see me? I'm sorry.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay, for whatever reason, sorry, my screen just went dead. I thought I lost you. The God I believe in, not the impotent Jesus that loves everybody and LGBTQ flags in his house. I don't believe in that guy. I believe in a God that is vengeful, a God that hates to be mocked, a God that will judge you. And I hope he's merciful because I need it. But there's no way that God is sitting above us, watching his children, not mine, not yours, his children, being brutally raped day in and day out, and he's going to do nothing. When I talk to these people and they tell me what it looks like what does it really look like when children are being raped? It's almost as I have to okay, hold on. I have to time out. I go get some fresh air and I got to go vomit.
Yeah.
You got to vomit. I hate talking about this, but I feel as if I have to. So let me just give you two real life things. Because I'm asking this guy, he goes, well, you got to understand there's two different levels. There's the low class level of kidnapping and putting them in basements and tying them up and then raping them at nauseum. And then they have STDs in their anus, in their vaginal canal, in their mouth. Their anus and their vaginas are ripped to shreds. Then they pump the kids full of drugs just to keep them from crying. He goes, that's the dirty be in the basement that's happening in America. And then there's the other side. He goes, this is the high dollar side. The high dollar side looks like this. He's telling me it's like he just did it. Like this happens all the time. Well, if I'm a high dollar guy, I have all the children. I have like 20, 30, 50 of them. And I have them in cages and stuff. And I go and I rent out a airstrip and I get a hangar and I put a stage on there. And before that, I send out a menu to all the pedophiles across the globe. And then I strip the kids naked and I put them on a stage one by one and they begin to bid on the children. And the winning bid, we put the children back with clothes on and then we put them on a Learjet and we fly them and they're gone to wherever they go, whoever the final bid is. America, this is happening right now. And you have done nothing. I talk to people and they just go, okay, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. I can't. Okay, you're complicit because you're weak. Do you think it's uncomfortable for you to hear this? To hear about festering anuses and vaginas being shredded because of grown men penetrating some 3-year-old girl's vagina? That makes you uncomfortable? Okay, well, how about you just be uncomfortable for 30 seconds and you focus on that little girl that's crying out, is anybody coming for me? And the answer, sweetheart, no one's coming for you because our government is perpetuating it, allowing it to happen. The judicial system in America will not touch it. Lawyers, AUSAs, DAs, and judges don't want to touch it. It is the greatest sin that is happening to America. And I don't care if I get demonetized. I don't care if people don't buy my stuff. I'm never going to shut up about this. I'm not, because I'm not going to be complicit in this. But this is what's happening in America because we have open borders. When you allow crime, no matter how big or small, but really when it's a big crime, and that wake pushes through society, there's all kinds of smaller crimes, if you will. Cottage industry crimes pop up everywhere. Now you're looking at human smuggling. You have drug cartels that are now taking over human smuggling. Why? For my whole career, narco smugglers look down on the human smugglers as that's too much money, that wastes time, you don't have a high profit margin. But now the narco smugglers are looking at it, they're like, oh no, I own that now. Well, why do they want to own that? Because I can sell heroin, cocaine, fentanyl. I can sell it one time. And once a junkie puts it in their body, it's gone. I can't resell it. I can resell a 5-year-old Guatemalan boy. I could resell him 5, 10, 15 times a day. A day. There are people that are coming out to saying that I've been abducted. I've been in the child sex trafficking. I have been raped tens of thousands of times. You hear a woman gets raped one time and their life literally is consumed by that horrific act for almost their whole life. They're never going to outlive it.
Yeah.
Imagine being violated like that 10 times a day for 10 years.
No, it's just unbelievable. I mean, when I think about the amount of citizens who are probably still good people in the US, who are armed, the right to bear arms, and they've got a good arsenal behind them. This could be stopped by the very people that live within that country. If this happens, are we going to see massive civil war? And will it happen? Is it going to be encouraged by Donald Trump coming in that people start cleaning up their own neighborhoods? Or are people just going to turn to being vigilantes with no other choice than either to leave where they live and abandon everything that they've worked for all their lives, or stand up and fight against it? How do you see this playing out?
I don't think America has hit their level of pain threshold yet. Just don't. Here's how I see it playing out for the election. Okay. If Biden, he's not running, but let's say I'm using Biden as a generic term, Kamala Harris, whoever, they will have to steal the election at a grotesque level, like in your face. I don't care. We win. Shut up.
Yeah.
I think that will spark a civil war. What does that look like? I don't know. Trump wins. The largest deportation force in American history. You're going to have law enforcement fighting like death fights with illegal aliens. You'll have BLM, you'll have Antifa, and you'll have the Democratic Party in conjunction with the media demonizing everything, and they will attack us. And the Antifa and BLM, they've already stated they will, and they had started. They will not go into the cities. They will go into the suburbs. And that is where all the guns are in America, the suburbs. Yeah. And then we will systematically kill everyone. Let me just tell you, the best way I can tell you this is John Rich, the great singer. He just came out with the new #1 song on Revelation. He put out a meme about 9 months ago, and I saw, it's not really a meme. It was kind of like a talking, like a story, but it was a short story. And the story goes like this. I'm a man sitting in America. I'm sitting on my porch and I'm happy. All the crazy stuff, you're doing it, but you're not inflicting it on me. It's okay. You're not hurting my family. It's okay. But now you've now come into my neighborhood, my community. Now you're forcing me off of my porch. And as I engage and move forward, and as I'm going to meet you in battle, I am getting more angry. I'm getting more resentful, and I have rage. Why do I have rage? Because I was happy on my porch. I worked hard for that house. I worked hard for that life. I had a wife and kids, and we were happy. Now, as I walk toward this battle, everything behind me is dead. It's dead. I can never go back because I am going to be a different man when this ends. Because what I'm going to do, and history's proven this. This is not what I'm dreaming. History's proven this. When you make men like me go into battle, we are going to do things to you that I didn't know even existed or that I had the capacity to do to you. Yeah. And that means I'm going to inflict violence and pain and suffering on you because of my rage. I will not be able to control it because you killed my life and I have nothing to lose now and have everything to gain to give you all of my pain, suffering, and rage I'm going to throw onto you. And history is showing that. Atrocities that we can't even imagine. Is America there yet? I don't know. I think we're close. But what does it look like when it happens? It looks like, and I don't want this to happen, but when this happens, America may exist, but it will never be the same. Never.
Yeah, definitely coming up that, good men are going to have to do bad things. And it's not something that would normally be in their nature. But good men are being pushed now to the levels where they will stand up. And those that may have been seen as being weak and browbeaten for so long are now going to stand up, and people are really going to see what they're capable of. And as you say, when people lose everything, they've got nothing else to lose, but everything to fight for. And I do see that that's where that's heading. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Can I ask you the morale within the border agents and how the border agents are actually coping with what they're seeing and being able to not do what they want to do in regards to what their job is?
The Border Patrol morale and ICE morale is at zero. It does not exist. I have friends that's still in the Border Patrol, and they call and tell me, no, they use this term, we are numb. They would say, was so angry at the beginning, so angry, just raging mad. And then it became normal. And then it became, there's nothing we can do. And then I just want to get out of it.
Yeah.
And there's American sentiment that is very angry at the Border Patrol, and they're angry at law enforcement in general. But my only caveat to the anger pointed at the ground forces, not the higher level administrators. They could all go to hell. But the ground troops, this is how they feel. Their own leaders call them racists and Nazis. Politicians, their own leaders in their organization undermine them, cut their legs out. The American public is yelling at them and screaming at them. And what you see is a circle the wagons effect where the agents are like, oh yeah, screw it. I'm going to call in sick. I'm going to take vacation time. I'm going to do everything I can to get me to my retirement, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
United States Border Patrol, at the height of our deployment of assets, we had over 21,000 agents. They can't hire anyone to take the jobs, and people are fleeing. We are now in the 14,000 range. We are 1/3, 33% of our needed population of Border Patrol agents do not exist. A third disappeared. You're looking at in the next 5 to 7 years, a mass exodus out of the Border Patrol of retirements, early retirements.
Yeah.
And what are you going to have after that? The only thing that could change is if Donald Trump comes into office, and then that job that was the worst job in the world will be the greatest job in law enforcement, because you will be going nonstop and having the greatest time of your life. But it will be dangerous and you might die, but it will be exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how is the sentiment? Obviously, the staff and the morale is low in that regards, but they are being given orders from managers that have managers above them, and then senior executives that are within the border control. You know, are the people higher up within border control saying the same thing? You know, where does the buck stop? Who is giving the orders? And is there nobody even within the high ranking echelons of this establishment that can turn around to them and say, no, we refuse to do that, because literally we have an oath, and our oath tells us that, you know, we are here to do our job. And if you're stopping us doing our job, we're going to ignore those rules? Or are people too fearful of losing that pension or losing that job that they're in? I mean, to me, it's very clear that they've got a lot more to lose than their job. So by abiding by the rules and what they're told to do from the higher ups, surely there's a bit of a fight within the people higher up in the organization at certain levels that can at least turn around and tell them to stick it up the backside, and they're going to run their organization the way that it should be run. What's stopping this?
I know the people at the top intimately. I know them. They're never going to, they're cowards. You have people that are in the upper echelon that have never arrested anyone in their whole career. Never arrested anyone. I have a Border Patrol agent that was, when I was a journeyman agent, was a trainee, and now he is in the upper echelons, and he created the illegal alien flights into America, and he's proud of it.
Okay.
So when you talk about, are there people up at upper echelon? The answer is no. No. No, they're not. And the guys on the bottom, and I have a problem with them too, and I will be very honest. I'm very torn. I'm waiting for a leader within the Border Patrol to say, no, I'm not doing it. And we're all not doing it. All of us. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Fire all of us? But that's not gonna happen, sir. I came out 24 years. I'm angry about it because Donald Trump won the election. If he was allowed to be the president again and not stolen, I would have stayed in the Border Patrol. I'd still be in the Border Patrol today. I would have had another promotion, maybe 2. My pension would have got higher. Everything would have been, I would have loved it. I would have been a part of a winning team, and I loved it. But there was no way after a year under Joe Biden that I was going to stay and partake in that. I had enough time. I had 24 years in. I could leave. So I did. I think it's the honorable thing that I left. And some people say, well, you should stay to fought. Well, wait a minute. I fought for 21 out of those 24 years. 22 out of those 24 years. I fought every single day. Got broken bones. I broke my tailbone, my head. I can't sleep at night because I can't roll over on my shoulders. Don't tell me that I should have kept fighting more. I kept fighting. I was banging my head against the wall. So I decided I'm going to get out and maybe I'll try something different. And I wrote a book. I'm doing a documentary. I'm still in the fight. I don't have a badge on my chest, but I have a gun on my hip and I can do it. So I'm going to fight in a different way. Yeah. There is a lot of issues in America, sir. And America is a moral cesspool. It is devoid of any masculine leadership. There are no men. Our churches have fallen. They preach a bogus God and a bogus law to follow. And we look at the destruction of America and we throw our hands up and go, well, how did we get here? How did we get here? This is a slippery slope of decades of taking God out of every corner of America. It has destroyed gay marriage is okay. Really? Okay, now we have drag queens, men with erections giving lap dances to children in schools and libraries. And we all laugh and say, oh, that's okay.
Nope.
No. 10 years ago, that person would be thrown in jail, and rightfully so. Why is he now celebrated? Why is what was a felony 10 years ago, 5 years ago, why is that celebrated? That's how far we've fallen as a nation. You can argue with me about Christianity and religion or whatever, but I'm asking you a very simple question. A man with an erection that's fondling children and have them doing lap dances 10 years ago, 5 years ago, would be in jail with a felony as a pedophile, a registered sex offender for life. Now we celebrate him. Now we clap and say, look how nice that is. That, in just 30 seconds of me describing that, that is America today. That is America today.
You're absolutely.
I can go on forever and ever, and I appreciate you allowing me this time to speak so openly and freely. I do.
Yeah.
My time, I could, like I said, I would stay with you another hour. I have a pressing
no, that's all
I have
good.
to go to.
Yeah.
But I want, and I'll come back whenever you want, Chris. I will send you I'll send you my documentary before I release it, so you can look at it. And if you don't like it, you tell me you don't like it. But if you do like it and you want to talk, bring me back on, because I think the documentary that me and my partner are going to put out is not only going to be artistically incredible, it's going to be powerful. I don't believe that you are going to feel as if that you forgot to exhale after 90 minutes of watching that documentary.
Yeah, I believe what you're exposing here is going to have an incredible and positive impact. And I hope we see the change that we need to get the countries back into the hands of the people again. Now, before we go here, is there any other key or important things you need to mention? And where are people going to find this documentary, and where are they going to find you?
You can find me at X at JJ Carrell 14. You can purchase my book. My book's an Amazon bestseller multiple times. At Amazon, it's invaded. And then if you go to thisistreason.com, you can pre-order. We are selling thousands of orders now. We don't even have a product, right? But people want to hear the truth. But what's great is $9.99, like a coffee. You can get the thisistreason.com. You get that. It comes out. We're anticipating September, October, the latest, but mainly September we're shooting for. But what my partner came up with is no one's ever done this before in documentary history. For $14.99, you can get a package that allows you 35 hours of interviews and behind the scenes content We already have 10 to 15 hours put up on our website now. So people that have already bought the VIP package, they're watching already 10 hours, 15 hours of interviews or behind the scenes leading up to the documentary. So you can follow us on this journey, which I think was brilliant. It's not my idea at all. He came up with it. I think is genius. So just go to thisistreason.com. Why it's so important for us to sell it too is Ryan and I, we funded all of this on our own, tens of thousands of dollars on our own, because we wanted complete control. We wanted to tell the truth as it was. We didn't want Netflix, Amazon Prime, or a third party that gave us money to say, oh, JJ, let's go easy on the child sex trafficking. Let's not really talk about that. No, I want to show you, America, exactly what is happening. And this documentary is basically me talking as I am now, but I'm going to show you, not through my words, I'm going to show you videos, interviews, and it's going to be fast. It's going to start fast, end fast, and it's going to be done. And you're going to be like, what did I just see? And what you just saw is what treason is and what the federal government has done to the United States of America. So, Chris, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. Stay safe in Mexico, because you're right.
Hopefully I'll see you in the US. you never know. I might have a shirt with a badge on the arm at that point, giving everyone a hand.
Good. Very nice to meet you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And everyone out there, please share this, get it out there. This is very important information. And as always, thanks again, and we'll talk soon. Take care, JJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Have a great night.
And yourself. Bye now.